Are Sinema and Manchin going to cause the GOP coup? Are they going to help bring about the end of democracy, specifically by blowing up voting rights and certainly the end of any kind of democratic rule in the United States by blowing up Build Back Better, which will then be a failure for President Biden that will, that literally will echo through the 2022 and 2024 elections? And who are the people behind them? Is this the right-wing billionaire machine that the Koch brothers created back in the day and now has metastasized way beyond that? There are now state policy think tanks in every single state in the union that are churning out op-eds on a daily basis, that are writing, pieces in, court briefs for state Supreme Courts in support of legislation. You've got the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, that meets twice a year, where Republican legislators get together one-on-one with individual lobbyists for over 100 different companies and industries. And those lobbyists provide the Republican legislators with legislation to benefit their companies that the Republican legislators then take back to their state houses and pass. Is that what's going on here? Are Sinema and Manchin basically caught in the clutches of this giant billionaire-funded right-wing machine that goes back to the founding of the Heritage Foundation in the 1980s or the late 1970s? And others, the Charles Koch Foundation. It used to, what it used to be. Now it's called the Cato Institute. Now he's got his own foundation as a separate thing. And there's a whole Competitive Enterprise Institute, the American Enterprise Institute, what's the Conservative Women's Group, Women for America. There's Independent Women's Forum. We've had them on as guests before. These are all basically groups that are, given their front money by right-wing billionaires and organizations that they have created. The right-wing billionaire network in the United States, the political network, through organizations like Freedom Works and the like, is larger than the Republican Party. It has more money than the Republican Party. Sometimes people refer to it as a shadow political party. I would say it is the right-wing force in American politics, and the Republican Party is the shadow party. And it sure looks to me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, what am I missing here? That Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, in slightly different ways, are buying into this or have been bought by this, which goes back to my rant in the first hour about the Supreme Court and judicial review and all that kind of stuff. Is it possible that what's going on? Kyrsten Sinema met a couple of days ago with several members of Congress. In fact, let me get the details for you. She met with John Tester, a conservative Democrat from Montana, Tim Kaine, the Hillary Clinton's vice presidential candidate, but nonetheless also, a neoliberal Democrat, and Angus King, who used to be a Republican, is now an independent, Angus King from Maine, who has become, I think all three of these people are outspoken defenders of the idea of democracy anyway, and thus presumably advocates for voting rights. So both Manchin and Sinema attended a meeting yesterday afternoon with Tester, Kaine, and King to try to figure out a way around the filibuster. And yet, and John Hickenlooper, by the way, the former governor of Colorado, now the senator from Colorado, he replaced Cory Gardner, the guy who was all in favor of the personhood bill that would have outlawed all hormonal birth control pills in Colorado, the one that Mara Liasson lied about on the air on NPR back in the day. It made me crazy. I couldn't believe it. And it was just a day or two before the election. Anyhow, John Hickenlooper, the good guy, came out in support of changing the filibuster. This is from a Politico piece, Sinema Pops Democrats Filibuster Trial Balloon on Voting Rights. John Hickenlooper came out in support of changing the filibuster to pass elections legislation, reasoning, quote, if we can change the process on the debt ceiling, then surely we can do the same to protect our democracy, which is the argument that Raphael Warnock, Senator and Reverend Raphael Warnock of Georgia, has been making. He, by the way, is up for re-election. And if you're looking, you know, many times people call in and say, who should I be giving money to? I've got $50. I'd like to contribute it to some place where it's going to have some meaning. And my first answer is always give it to individual candidates who can do a good job. And Raphael Warnock is right up at the top of that list. But anyhow, he came out and he said that he would like to, well, I don't have a quote. Oh, yeah, here it is. He said, our democracy is clearly imperiled. The lights are flashing, and we are irresponsible if we don't respond. Now, with Sinema, we know that the pharmaceutical industry is running ads in Arizona talking about how wonderful she is. And my recollection, and I may be wrong on this, so don't quote me, but my recollection is that the Chamber of Commerce or one of the other large business groups, perhaps the National Association of Manufacturers, is doing the same thing in support of Sinema in Arizona. I know she has more than one group that is running ads on TV that says, isn't Kyrsten Sinema wonderful? She's standing up for the citizens of Arizona. At least the white citizens, which is probably the subtext of these ads. We don't see them here in Oregon, but they're out there. So is it that Kyrsten Sinema has just thrown in with white supremacy and billionaires controlling America? Or is she just trying to get herself, you know, another magazine cover, another photo spread in Time magazine or in Newsweek or in the New York Times or, you know, wherever she's been? And with Joe Manchin, there's a similar question. You know, his daughter, Heather Breck, made millions, I mean, literally tens of millions of dollars as CEO of the company that jacked up the price on EpiPens, which is ephedrine. I mean, it's an old generic drug. They used to make it out of crab apples. You ever bite into a crab apple and suddenly your mouth tastes really dry? That's the ephedrine, or epinephrine, or ephedrine, or however it's pronounced. I'm sorry, I didn't go to medical school, but it used to be in contact cold capsules. It used to be in Sudafed. They took it out because you can use it as a raw material to make methamphetamine. But that's what this is. A generic drug, and now they're hundreds of dollars for something that costs pennies to make? Well, yeah, that was Joe Manchin's daughter. So you can see where maybe he's not all that happy about controlling drug prices, except she retired 3 years ago. So the Manchin family fortune is secure. His son, is running his coal companies that are in his so-called blind trust. And by the way, coal is diminishing, but it's not going to go away before Joe Manchin's an old man and dies. So it's hard to think that he's just protecting his financial interests. It may be that he's protecting the interests of his social circle. It may be that he's decided to throw in with the so-called Koch network or the other right-wing billionaire networks the way that Sinema appears to have. I just don't know. But what I do know is that these two people are stopping the forward progress of this country. And we've tried everything. We've tried pressure campaigns. We've tried people in kayaks coming up to Joe Manchin's yacht in the Capitol Yacht Club where I used to live. Louise and I used to have a boat there. It's a great place, by the way. With some really great people, and it's low-cost living in D.C., except for Joe Manchin's huge yacht. I mean, he's got the biggest boat in the place, of course. So what's going on? And if they keep doing this, is this going to be the thing that tips us into a coup by the Republican Party to reinstall either Trump or Trumpy-type candidates who want to end democracy in America, who want to make it really, really hard to vote, who want to install judges who don't believe in the Constitution, but rather make up their own little originalist and textualist ideas.